the Secretary of Climate Change Commission of the Philippines. Also kindly ask Azerbaijan to be prepared.
Excellencies, allow me to thank at the outset and congratulate Tajikistan and the United Nations for co-hosting this important water process conference. We are here today to discuss this crux, the nourishment of water for all and the threats of being deprived by it. Let me share with you a few striking data on the Philippines. The Philippines ranks fourth in the Global Climate Risk Index 2021, covering a period of 2 decades. Most of the disasters felt by my country are centered on water. Too much or too less of it, with droughts and the onslaught of successive typhoons, and most recently, landslides. We are challenged to provide access to safe, affordable, and accessible water for around 3 million more families. In the Philippines, water stress level is at medium high, where competition among users domestically for industry and agriculture and families are evident. Imagine a nation's own people competing for the same water resources, fighting for water between and amongst families. That, my friends, is a very disturbing image. And if a country can be in conflict with itself for water resources, it is not far-fetched that it can happen between countries. Under the administration of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, the Philippines is committed to secure water as a vital resource and to ensure safe access to all of our citizens. We are investing around $4.1 billion of our national budget to water. We recognize water resource management as an important means for our economy to thrive and for our people to survive. It also highlights how we in government put a premium on providing safe and affordable water access to all. This is why the Philippines has the Philippine Water Supply and Sanitation Master Plan. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the IPCC identified water scarcity as one of the future global climate risks. The alarm has been sounded. The clock is ticking. We should have acted together urgently years ago. We need to act now. Acting on prudence and public accountability, the Philippines is forging strong partnerships for a sustainable roadmap to water security. Water for people to drink, water to nourish our crops and fields for bountiful harvest, water to drive dynamism in our households and industries, water to generate clean and renewable energy. We know that the dimensions and components of water use and demand should and must work together, like the genius assembly of the human body. Each of the sectors must complement the success of the other, each component mutually reinforcing, from healthy people to bountiful harvest and industrial yields to responsible energy options beneficial to both people and planet for our shared prosperity. To scale this up for our world, the Philippines recognizes and urges this meeting to align ourselves with the following fundamental principles. There is no life without water, and therefore it is a matter of right. Water is finite, and therefore all of us are responsible for its wise and prudent use. We cannot work on the zero-sum principle of when we give water to one, we have to take from the other. This simply is not sustainable. And third, innovation makes water possible. Our creative and collective genius is vital to secure water for us all. But the narrative that is developing is bleak. Let us consider the impact of unmanaged flow and lack of water, from drought to flooding to sea level rise to cyclones, driven by unabated anthropogenic activities, human activities that cause global warming. In this regard, we call attention. Corporate compulsions for profits must be curbed. About 1 billion people in low-lying cities by the sea and on small island developing states are gravely at risk from sea level rise by mid-century. The recent series of typhoons in the Philippines is a stark lesson for us. One typhoon hit at the height of summer when soil was dry and could not hold water. Landslides ensued. The damage to my country was estimated at $1.6 billion US. What does this represent? This represents my country's budget for health insurance for around 60% of our total population. But Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen of this meeting, like water, the narrative can still be transformed from frustration and desperation to one of action and inspiration. This is where climate justice becomes relevant in what we do, a guiding light towards a more informed collaboration among our nations so that our people across generations will be equipped to restore and ensure the quality of and access to water for all, as a matter of life, a dignified life. Beyond waters, Beyond borders, waters connect us all. We owe it to our people and to our posterity that the waters around us, connecting our lands, are rightly gifts to our existence as human beings. Our challenge and responsibility, then, is to formulate and implement water development strategies and trajectories in the era of climate change up to the last mile and up to the last person. To this end, we need climate financing, make it more accessible and available, unlock it for the developing world. This is not a plea for handouts. Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, this is an urgent call for responsible partnership. We want to contribute more, but we in the developing world simply need to help ourselves. In this regard, we welcome Japan's pledge of 500 billion yen to help solve water issues in the Asia-Pacific region. To end, let me emphasize again that the core of climate change adaptation and mitigation is climate justice. To those least responsible, to those with the least resources, to the most exposed and vulnerable, we need to do more. Conversely, to the most responsible, to those with the most resources, you have to do more. Through the Dushanbe High-Level Summit International Conference on Water, the Philippines hopes that this message is heard clearly and acted on urgently with results. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Philippines for his statement.